The earth cracks open. After Britney had made the cut for the Mickey Mouse Club, and we had only been in Florida, where they taped the show, for 2 weeks, I got the call I had been dreading for years. Jamie was the one who told me the earth, my earth, had cracked open again, just as it is, just as it had 15 years ago with Daddy, had been in that accident with the milk truck. Lynne, what are you doing right now? I could tell from the tone of his voice something awful had happened. I have some bad news for you. Who's with you right now? My first thought was Brian, who had so many close calls over the years. Please God, don't let it be Brian. And then he told me Mama had died in Sonny's swimming pool. My young nephew had been in the pool with her, and he noticed that his grandma was face down in the water. At first, she thought she was just floating, but he quickly realized something was drastically wrong. He called my brother, his uncle, in from the barn and said to come quick, that something was wrong with Grandma. Sonny found her dead. Of what cause he didn't know. Actually, none of us will ever know if she died of a seizure of another stroke or what really caused her heart to stop beating. Sonny decided against an autopsy because he figured it would do no good. She was gone. Needless to say, I was torn to pieces. Not only had I not been able to say goodbye to my mama, but there we were, in a strange place far from home and family. We couldn't even afford airfare home for the funeral, but God sent a good Samaritan in the form of Lynne Hurls, my new friend and the mother of one of Britney's castmates, Justin Timberlake. She lent us the money to fly home right away, and I will always be grateful for that. Though I was shattered by Mama's death, I took great comfort in listening to people's stories at Mama's memorial service. It sounds a bit strange, maybe, but she had the funniest funeral. I laughed through tears all the way through, as folks celebrated her life by telling some great stories. Her pastor, for example, told how he had come to visit her one day and found Mama, a highly modest Methodist lady, remember, in a state of undress that shocked both of them. You see, in those days she lived out on the dairy farm pretty much by herself. And that farm is in the sticks. I mean, even her mailbox was down to the roadaways. So nobody could blame her for washing her car one sticky, hot Louisiana summer day in her skivvies. The poor thing was mortified, though, when the pastor's car drove up into plain sight. She could see him plain as day, and he had a crystal clear view of her standing there in her bra and undies. Oh, wait, she had called out in her high, feminine British accent before making a mad dash for the house. Jamie also recounted one of Mama's quirky habits in the kitchen. Miss Lillian cooked every Sunday, and it didn't matter if it was 4 people or 20 people, she would only open one can of green peas. She said, of course now, Sonny always got served first, and she made sure Sonny had a nice helping of peas on his plate. Jamie still loves to tell this story. My brother was special to our mother. Not only was he the only boy, but he also ran the dairy and would come to have coffee with Mama every morning. They had a wonderful, close-knit bond. After the whirlwind of the funeral and all the visitors died down, we returned to Florida, where I really started feeling the aching void my mother's death had left in my life. Still, I couldn't let my children see how much pain I was in. I did not I did most of my grieving in private moments. When the girls were asleep at night during the days, I hid my mourning and went about my business. After all, as an alcoholic's wife, I had learned well how to put a good face on things, no matter what was happening, but I was shaken to the core, which revealed itself in interesting ways. I have a theory that when I miss someone, I have a theory that when you miss someone, you may find yourself imitating that person. I found myself copying my mama more in the weeks and months after her death by loving up extra on my kids, keeping a meticulous house, and dressing my children the way she would have done, neat as a pin. I even ironed more than usual. Thank goodness that particular manifestation of bereavement didn't last too long. You may think it's odd, but there was one concealing thought that eventually broke through my fog of grief, a thought that gives me comfort to this day. Both Mama and Daddy died doing what they loved. Daddy was driving and Mama was swimming. Somehow I can picture them both doing just those things now on the other side.